And we're live on match day as Doug reaches for a buffalo wing. He's got it! Oh, and he's gone for a can of Pepsi too! What a finish! There's no doubt about it. It just tastes better. Match days deserve Pepsi.
Ouch. This knee is killing me, but I can't stop training. The marathon is in 2 weeks.
Let's get on ZocDoc and find a doctor to take a look at that for you.
Okay.
Here's a review. Dr. Craddock really takes his time.
No, I don't have time.
What about Dr. Charles? His patients say he can help find a quick fix, and he's in network.
Great, now we're talking. Book it.
Booked. 1 mile down, 19 to go.
Bring it on.
You've got options. Download the ZocDoc app today.
Hey, crime cousins. It's time for a brand spanking new episode of the Melanin Mayhem podcast, hosted by your favorite country girl, Renee Davis. Oh, if today is your first time mixing it up mayhem style, welcome, darling. We welcome you with open arms and piping hot tea, honey, that I am going to spill for you every single Wednesday. You see, over here at Melanin Mayhem, I bring you the stories of some of the most heinous, I'm talking diabolical and downright audacious crimes committed by some melanated baddies that you may or may not have ever heard of. And if you have heard the stories, maybe you caught a couple of sound bites. I can promise you this. You have not heard the story the way the country girl is going to run it down for you, baby. So go on ahead and get yourself comfortable while I get over here with my boo things. I'm talking about the New Orleans Nation. Hey, babies. Child, the hangover of it all. I have missed y'all and I have missed home. Baby, New Orleans does not owe me anything. Do you hear me? It's always a good time in New Orleans, but it was just a little extra added something to see all of the chocolate and all of its finest down there in the streets of New Orleans for Essence. Honey, I'm telling you, I got home on Monday. Today is Tuesday that I'm recording, and when I tell y'all I still feel like I'm a little hungover, y'all know I don't drink. And that damn Miss Tiffany from Melanin Mysteries, oh my God, she took it on as her personal ministry to make sure that every time she looked at me, I had a drink in my hand. Honey, but that's okay because I made it through, and here on the other side, nothing could keep me from recording this new episode for y'all because you know I love you like that. So let's see. Yeah, Essence was a bop. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this thing wherever you are listening. That's YouTube, that's Spotify, that's Apple. It's even on Amazon and iHeart. Wherever you are listening to me, make sure you like it. And if you can, go ahead and leave your girl a 5-star review. I shall appreciate that. What else do we have? The Melanin Mayhem original story series. We just wrapped up the last alternate ending in the story of Ariana's tale of what is going on over here. So, this Sunday for the subscribers, we will be starting a brand new series, and baby, I have no clue where we going this week, but we going somewhere, that's for sure. I think that is all I have for church announcements. Don't forget the website is available to you for all of your merchandise needs. That's melaninmayhempodcast.com. Other than that, I'm looking forward to trying to get together some type of event because I feel like it's been a while since we got together and did some things. I really been wanting to do a game night, so I'm trying to put something together on that, but more to come as the weeks go by. We'll figure something out. Let's go on ahead and get to the reason for the streaming because, I told y'all last week I had a story picked out, but I changed mid-course because I didn't want it to have me all bummed out for Essence, because this story is one of them damn stories. Like, all of our stories are horrible on Melanin Mayhem. I mean, that's a terrible thing to say, but the reality of the situation is just that. We talk about some really heinous crimes, but some of them reach a level that's even more heinous, and it makes my blood boil when I read about these people who have done such horrible, horrible crimes. And this is one of those ones where I am just flummoxed at how evil those that walk among us are. And I have to give a shout out. I tell y'all all the time that I am forever reading the comments and the posts that you guys put up. And for this particular story, I owe Miss Morgan Pearson the honor of why I'm covering this story. She posted it up on the private discussion group. And when I went through and read it, I was like, ugh, just our type of shenanigan right here. So, Miss Morgan, thank you so much for bringing this degenerate to the front of the congregation. We owe you for bringing this into our lives. Thank you so much for the suggestion, and y'all keep them coming. But this one here, y'all can thank Miss Morgan Pearson for this one. Yeah, Morgan sent us a book about. I know y'all said that's an old-fashioned word, but ooh, this some old-fashioned crime and just nasty niggotry here. Like, if ever there was somebody who need to sit on the right hand of Lucifer with a poker stuck up their ass, just gasoline draws on forever refilling, this motherfucker here, like, he is still in the land of the living, and I hope every day is just a terrible, awful, fucked up ass day, because this was a terrible, fucked up ass human being. I have the distinct displeasure to tell you all about the bullshit that he pulled. So without further ado, because Miss Morgan brought this to our attention, I'm going to go on ahead and drag this stinking, trifling motherfucker to the front of the congregation so we can drag his ass properly. This week's Melanin Mayhem maker is Mr. Lorenzo Fayne, aka the Parkside Killer.
Honey, what are you listening to?
Mom!
Your teen might not share everything with you, but teens share everything with each other. And certain everyday behaviors, like sharing food, drinks, or kisses, could mean sharing bacteria that can cause meningococcal disease known as meningitis. Although meningitis is uncommon, about 1 in 10 who develop it will die. Ask your teen's doctor about missing meningitis vaccinations. Learn more at meningitis.com. Vaccination may not protect all recipients. Sponsored by GSK.
All right, New One Nation, let's get into the reason for the streaming. Now, Lorenzo Fayne was born April 2nd, 1971. I do not have a lot of in-depth background information on Lorenzo's upbringing. I don't know his mother and his father's name. I do know that mama and daddy was for the streets. Now, his daddy, they say, was schizophrenic, and he was an alcoholic, and he played a mean game of keep away. Yeah, honey, he stayed out of reach of all of their asses. So for all intents and purposes, he dropped off some baby battle, and then he got the fuck on. Mama Fayne, on the other hand, stayed around for a bit. Mama liked to drink and mama liked to smoke. So she liked to smoke her back out, baby. And when she wasn't getting her drink and her smoke on, she was getting her beat down on. Lorenzo had a couple of siblings. I don't know exactly how many, but he was not an only child. But Mama Fayne liked to beat the brakes off Lorenzo with whatever she could get her hands on. She was one of them kind of mamas. And, you know, I come from the country, and there was a fair amount of you get hit with whatever you get hit with going on. But Lorenzo's mama took that shit to the extreme. Like, She would absolutely hit him with whatever was clever, but she had a real bad habit of beating this boy in his head whenever he was being disciplined for whatever mannerisms of disciplication needed for the minute, right? And so that was her thing. Like, she didn't whoop ass, she whooped head. And she did that for quite a while until DFACS intervened, and upon realizing that, oh, this woman is beating her child in the head, they told her, please, ma'am, if you could please stop beating your son in the head expeditiously, it would help your case. Because she was like, you know, hey, this is what I do. Oh, you say this is wrong? Okay, I won't do it no more. Oh, okay, great. Now, mind you, this is all going on in Lorenzo's formative years. But we find ourselves in the year of 1978. Lorenzo is 7 years old, still a very tender age. And Lorenzo was sexually assaulted. He was raped by a neighborhood boy that they say was about 4 years older than him. So this boy is about 11, maybe 12 years old. And he sexually assaults Lorenzo. Now, even though his home is broken, this young boy, Lorenzo, knows enough to know that this is wrong and he needs to tell an adult. And he does so. So he goes home, and his mom has a boyfriend, you know, his stepdad, in one of them uncle type situations. And so he tells Uncle Stepdaddy that, you know, the little boy down the street was messing with my booty. And Stepdaddy, not going to be in line for any type of Parent of the Year awards, he decides that the best way to deal with the situation that a young man has sexually assaulted his stepson was to put hands on Lorenzo. Oh, yes. So he has been violated in the streets, and then he come home and get the brakes beat off of him. Say that man choked Lorenzo till he passed out. All because he told him that he had been sexually assaulted. So no cops were ever called on the situation, no caseworkers brought in, no trips to the hospital for a rape kit, none of that stuff. They just moved on with life once Lorenzo woke up from being choked the fuck out. And so this leads Lorenzo to a life of just feralism. He is in and out of school, more out than he is in. The streets are raising him. And so he begins to do criminalistic shit. Like 1982, he's only 11 years old. He's arrested for criminal damage to property. So he goes into a little juvenile situation. In and out. 1984, he's back in another juvenile group home because he out here in these streets wilding out. By the time he was 14, because he's been in and out of the criminal justice system, it's been documented that Lorenzo has propensities for violence. You think? And he also has propensities for sexual aggression. This cannot end well. I mean, this young man is only 14 years young. Between 1982, when he was 11, and 1989, Lorenzo would be arrested buku times for all mannerisms of robbery and burglary and assault and grand theft auto. He would spend all of these years in and out of juvenile detention centers. But at the same time, while he's going in and out of juvie, he is also being physically and sexually assaulted in the baby lockup, right? Fellow inmates are getting it in. So he's already violent. He is already sexually aggressive. He is being locked down and someone is being the sexual aggressor towards him. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I'll tell you. In April of 1989, right before he turned 18 years old, like a day before he turned 18, they released him from the youth detention center, right? And Lorenzo left Milwaukee, which is where he was born and raised, and he moves to East St. Louis, Illinois. He's going to go stay with his grandmama, Miss Nellie Williams. Willis, not Williams, Miss Nellie Willis. So Miss Nellie stay over in East St. Louis, and Lorenzo apparently is trying to turn over a new leaf. You know, he's in all kind of shit in Milwaukee, Illinois. So let's go on over here to East St. Louis, and maybe you have a better way, right? Well, he's at grandmama's house, and on the surface, it appears that everything is okay. I mean, Lorenzo ain't winning no Citizen of the Year award or no shit like that. But for all intents and purposes, he's kept his head down. Now, when I was researching this particular case, it brought up something else, and which is the Atlanta child murders. And those murders roughly took place from like 1979 to 1982-ish. They say 81, but the peoples of Atlanta say the murders were still continuing on up into 82, 83-ish, right? But for me, I thought, naive, but I thought that was the only case of mass child killing in the United States. Boy, was I wrong, New Orleans Nation. Come to find out, there were other neighborhoods in the United States that had a rash of children that came up unalived. One particular neighborhood was the Parkside neighborhood of East St. Louis. This is a neighborhood that borders East St. Louis and Centerville, both in Illinois, right? Yeah, they've got a rash of murders that went on there too. But at the time when it was going on, these cases were not being labeled as serial cases. They were just a bunch of one-off murderation cases, right? Now, in Illinois, just to give a little bit of context, the homicide game at the time was high. Like, when all of this is going down, it's roughly about 250 murderations in this time period that we're about to cover. So it was going down in the St. Louis area. And in many cases, we're talking about siloed policing. You know, everything was not digital. There was not a lot of case overlap or sharing of information. So you've got each individual neighborhood police department handling the cases from their area, but not necessarily linking that, oh, right across the street, right across the border, something similar has taken place. I'm so glad that in the year of 2026, we are breaking down those silos, because murders happen and they are not regulated to one particular district or precinct. They usually happen across lines, and we need to be able to share that information. But unfortunately, during this time period, late 80s, early 90s, that was not the way things went, right? And so our boy Lorenzo, he's moved to East St. Louis and staying with his grandmama, and it looks like everything is fine. Over the next 4 years, nothing real ever came of anything with Lorenzo. But then we find ourselves July of 1993. The day, July 23rd. There is a fire on Elm Street. Well, the fire department is called because, hey, we got a fire here, right? And so the fire department, they come in and they do their thing. They put the fire out. And when they go in to sweep the apartment, they find a body. And y'all, finding a body is bad. I mean, full stop. But this body, the way they found it, they knew instantly that this was real, real bad. This body that's been found in this burned out apartment, the body is on their knees, bent over a coffee table. pants down around ankles, legs spread apart, and what they describe as copious amounts of Vaseline smeared across the buttocks area. Now, they can tell that this girl has been stabbed, that she was not stabbed at this coffee table that she was found laying over. Oh, no, she was stabbed somewhere else. Whoever stabbed her drug her over to this coffee table and then assaulted her. So this assault happens after the stabbation, after the death. Necrophilia. So now the fire department knows, okay, this is way above us. They call the police, right? So the police come out and they start doing their investigation. Well, they see a blood trail that leads from this house. This house is where 17-year-old Faith Davis lives, right? So they see this trail of blood leading from Faith's apartment. It goes out the door and outside and across the street to a house at 420 Elm Street. So, they can't just go off of what they see. They bring out the dogs to make sure that what they seeing is what they seeing. Now, as they're doing all this, they're, of course, talking to people in the neighborhood, and eyewitnesses say that they saw a man run out of Faith's apartment building and into that house across the street, same place where that goddamn blood trail lead. Well, the police go and knock on the door at 420 Elm Street, and the man comes to the door and they question him a little bit. Now, when they look at him, this man has got blood on his clothes. And when they go in the house, it's some blood inside the house. So they take Lorenzo down to the station for further questioning. Now, when they get him down there at the station, his first story was that, I was over there at Faith's house, but I was there just to rob the place. That's all I was doing. Scouts, I don't know nothing about no murderation. Fuck that shit. Okay. Well, they have this state police officer. His name is Joe Bates. And Officer Joe is the one that's doing all the questioning. So Officer Joe says, you don't know nothing about a murder? No, I don't know nothing about a murder. So they went on ahead and they charged Lorenzo with burglary because that's what he is copped to, right? And so he is arraigned for burglary on July 26th, 1993. Now, I know by now you probably like, wait a minute, Renee, I know goddamn well you ain't brought us down here and talked this up about a couple of burglaries and one murderation. This don't sound like no Melanin Mayhem type situation. Oh, New Orleans Nation, just wait. I got you. I promise you I got you. So, okay, he is arraigned for this burglary on July 26, 1993, very next day. Well, the very next day, on July 27th, Officer Joe, he go back to holler at Lorenzo about that little business, that happened at Faith's house. But Lorenzo say he don't want to talk about what went down at Faith's house. So Officer Joe is like, all right, I'm going to let you sit with it for a little bit. I'm going to go do what I do, and I'm going to come back and chop it up with you a little later. All right. 2 days later, July 29th, Officer Joe goes back down to the jail to go holler at Lorenzo. This time, Zoe say, I did kill Faith. I did that shit. You been down here, you been patient with me. I'm just gonna come clean with you. And so he's like, I tell you what, we just gonna talk about it today, and then I put that shit in writing tomorrow. And oh, by the way, I know some more shit that's gonna shock the shit out you. So yeah, come on back down here tomorrow and holler at your boy. This motherfucker then goes on to tell Officer Joe that he liked him. I like you. You seem all right to me. This man tells Officer Joe that he seems like the big brother he never had. Sir, not you down here bonding with Officer Joe. He said, yeah, you just, I get a good feeling about you. You the only one that's really listening to me. I'm real comfortable with you. So Officer Joe was like, I'm so glad that I was able to provide you with this service. And I tell you what, you go and get you some rest. I'll be back down here tomorrow. Okay, so they go on about their separate ways, right? The very next day, on July 30th, Officer Joe does indeed come back, right? And so he tried to do his due diligence. He tried to get the Miranda out the way, right? Trying to Mirandize Zoe. But Zoe like, hey man, I don't want to hear all that shit. Ain't nobody got time for all that. And Officer Joe was like, but shit, man, I gotta say it, procedures and all, you know what I'm saying? Zoe was like, hey man, we gotta talk. You know what I'm saying? This is what we gonna do. You just signed this piece of paper saying that me and you about to talk about some confidential shit. You know what I'm saying? And that'll be fine. Now, Officer Joe, he ain't never been in this kind of situation before, and he don't quite know what to do. It ain't often you run into a criminal inmate that tells you that, hey, I don't want you to Mirandize me, but, I want to talk to you. And then just sign a little piece of paper saying that me and you just gonna talk. You got to be the dumbest. Like, in the year of our Lord, this was what, 1993? There were cop shows out at this point. Sir, you ain't never seen an episode of New York Undercover. Stop it. But, Officer Joe, he rises to the occasion. A piece of paper is procured. And this man wrote on this piece of paper, quote, "This conversation is between Lorenzo Fayne and S.A. Bates and no one else. It is completely confidential." And then he signed it. Nigga. And so Zoe was like, all right, bet. Now that we got this little paperwork out the way that I wanted, you know what I'm saying? Now it's time to talk. Man, Lorenzo got to singing like the rent was due around this motherfucker. Baby, he told everything that happened at Faith's house that day. And he ran it down. He went over there in Faith's house and he strangled her and he beat on her. He stabbed her and then he drug her over to that coffee table and he posed her and he raped her after she was gone. Now, this conversation has taken some hours to get out, right? But Officer Joe, he's hanging in there with him, right? And so after Lorenzo done unburdened himself about what happened over at little Miss Davis's house, he say, hey, Officer Joe, just between me and you, what kind of punishments you think they might have on the table for some shit? That shit we just talked about. And so Officer Joe was like, hey man, that's above me. I don't know about that right there. If you want to know about consequences and repercussions and shit, you're going to have to holler at the state attorney about that shit. So Zoe was like, I tell you what, bring that nigga with you when you come back and I chop it up with him too. So Officer Joe rolls out and handle his little business, typing everything up. And he comes back to the jail on August 2nd, 1993. This time he rolling with the state's attorney, right? And so they run through the Miranda shit again. And this time they get Zoe to put his John Hancock on that thing. And, Officer Joe was like, hey, this my man, the state's attorney. This my man, Zoe, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. But at this point, your boy Zoe, he get all shy and shit. Talking about, well, hell, he an attorney. Where my attorney at then? So the state's attorney like, shit, now you done wasted all my time. I thought you wanted to holler at me, nigga. I ain't want to holler at you. I'm finna be out, right? And so he get up and they waiting on, the door to open because you don't just walk out the door at the prison. You got to wait on somebody to open up the motherfucking door. And so while they standing there waiting on the guards to open up the door, your boy Zoe roll up on Officer Joe and was like, hey, man, hold up for a minute. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about your boy, he got my radar going off, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't really want to say nothing in front of him because he making me nervous, you know what I'm saying? Tell you what, come back by yourself next time and, we can chop it up some more. So Officer Joe like, shit, that's a bet, but check it out. I had told you I'm finna get ready to go on vacation and it's gonna be a little minute before I can get back over here. I got the little family reunion type situation or whatever that I'm in charge of. And it's gonna be maybe about a week or two before I can get back. Well, your boy Lorenzo, he is ever so accommodating. He was like, man, don't even trip. I remember, you told me about you were going to be taking some PTO, So you go on ahead and you do you. You go get your family time on, and I'm going to be here when you get back and we can pick up where we left off. All right? And so Officer Joe was like, you sure? Because I ain't going to be back till the 16th. You going to be good till then? Lorenzo was like, man, I'm Gucci, man. I'm straight. Go do you. So, all right, Officer Joe, he go off on vacation doing the family reunion shit, right? Well, this nigga Lorenzo, I don't know, he got antsy or whatever, because even though he know Officer Joe ain't due back to the 16th, on August 4th, this nigga ready to talk. So he calls and leave a message for somebody to please go tell Officer Joe to come holler at him, right? Officer Joe doing his thing. He ain't studying that shit. But around this same time, when Zoe ready to talk, the cold case unit was blowing the dust off some of them oldies but goodies. And on August 10th, 1993, they run DNA from a cold case from a young boy named Ari Hunt. Now, Ari got a print on his thigh. They run that print through the DNA machine, and they got a match to that Chester child molesting Lorenzo pussy ass. So when they look Lorenzo up, Officer Joe name right there next to all this shit. So they call up Officer Joe and tell him the news, and he cut his vacay short because, damn, we got a brand new case to bring on this ass. So Officer Joe bring that ass back to work. Well, same day, August 10th, Officer Joe and that cold case officer on Ari's case, they pull up on Lorenzo, right? They do the Miranda thing again. And then they tell him, hey, we found this fingerprint inside a little boy's thigh. And that little boy ended up being sexually assaulted and disconnected. Lorenzo, would you happen to know anything about that? And so Lorenzo scrunched his face up and he was like, shit, I need to think about this for a little bit. I need to, turn this over in my head. I tell you what, y'all come back tomorrow and I might have some news for you. And so Officer Joe and the cold case officer, they leave. Very next day, August 11th, 1993. Here they go, back at the jail, pulling up on Lorenzo, see if he ready to talk. They go back through the Miranda process again, and this time, Lorenzo say, yes, I'm the murdering murderer that murdered Ari. By close of business that particular day, he is admitted to not only killing Faith, but also the cold case Ari, and he writes it all down for the officer.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Now, at this particular point, Officer Joe is like ecstatic because he can close out Faith Davis's case, and they've also connected Lorenzo to a cold case. So that's a cold case that they're going to be able to close up. And so, when you got two deaths, one, of course, Faith being, for lack of a better word, the freshest one. This is the one that just happened, and it was, in connection with a fire. So we're talking arson and whatnot. So it was a little sensationalized, right? Meaning the newspapers were picking up the story. So 2 days later, this is on the 13th of August, Officer Joe run down on Lorenzo again. This time, because they got a report at this point. So your boy, Officer Joe, wanted to come and give Lorenzo a heads up. And he was like, hey, my G, just so you know, some articles are going to drop tomorrow in the newspaper. And I got to tell you, it ain't going to be nothing nice. They giving you the business, my. Hey, don't shoot the messenger, right? Zoe loses his shit. He don't want his grandma to see this shit in the newspaper, right? Old lady, she read the newspaper, probably was getting that motherfucker delivered. And so he's mad because now his business is about to be on Front Street and grandma finna know exactly what her grandson been up to. And he mad because Officer Joe came back off his vacation early. I mean, he's a considerate criminal. I don't know. He knew that the officer wasn't supposed to be back to the goddamn 16th, and he back working, and so he is really upset. Grandma finna find out Officer Joe been had his family time interrupted. Zoe need time to process all of this shit. So he tells Officer Joe, look, let me just go back to my cell. get my mind together, come back and see me on the 16th like we originally planned, because we just need to talk then. And so Officer Joe, he leaves and tells Lorenzo, keep your head up. Well, in between the time Officer Joe left and before he was coming back on the 16th, apparently Grandma came to visit Lorenzo in jail. Now, in my mind, this is one of them good old grandmamas, the ones that wore the house dress and slippers and that type, the coasters and dollies and shit. I just feel like she was one of them real grandmamas, and I can see her up in that jail telling Lorenzo, now, baby, you need to get right with God. And if it's anything that you done did that these people don't know about, you need to tell them, because the truth will set you free. And Grandma gonna love you, but don't be playing in these people's faces, okay? And so whatever she said to Lorenzo, it opened up some floodgates in his ass, because, baby, on August 16th, when Officer Joe came back, he was not prepared. When I say he wasn't ready, this nigga Zoe got Officer Joe up in that motherfucker clutching his pearls. Tell me why Lorenzo confesses to 3 more murders. Yes, 3 more murders. Let me tell you what this motherfucker was doing the whole time that we thought he was just sitting there chilling at Grandmama house. He was out here getting his killation all the way on. So we know about Ari Hunt. Ari was 6 years old. Now, this was what we thought was the start of this killing spree. Ari was killed July 14th, 1989. And this is not far from where Lorenzo's grandmama lived, right? It was a park called the Frank Holton State Park. It's near Centerville. Now, Ari was walking down the street with a friend, and Lorenzo done bebopped over there to him and lured Ari away by asking him to show him where somebody lived at. Ari, being a 6-year-old, being helpful, he's trying to help this nice man find this house. They walk underneath an overpass, and Lorenzo grabs this 6-year-old child and twisted his neck until he heard it break. But Ari wasn't dead. And so, because he was still alive, Lorenzo felt that he needed to finish the job. This low-life, stinking motherfucker took Ari's head and repeatedly smashed his head on the concrete. Then he took that baby's clothes off and raped him and threw his body in some woods. When they asked him why he killed Ari, this motherfucker said that he just wanted to know what the sound a neck makes when it snaps, and Ari was there, so he did it to him. And so we knew about Ari. He then confesses to murdering 14-year-old LaTondra Dean. Now, LaTondra was visiting a friend's house, right? And for whatever reason, the friend's family, they leave, but LaTondra stays at the house. Well, this is March 20th, 1992. There's a knock on the door. LaTondra goes and answers the door. It's Lorenzo ass at the door. He make up some excuse, kind of like he the handyman or whatever, and she lets him in. This motherfucker then takes a knife out of the kitchen, beats LaTondra, stabs her 24 motherfucking times, and then he rapes her. Left this girl in these people's house, inside of a bathtub, bleeding out. I can't imagine coming home, looking around, where LaTondra at? Yeah, well, her friend looking for her, and then finding her in the bathroom. Ooh, the trauma of it all. Now, this is what he's confessed to. Now, when this happened in 1992, when these people came home and found this young girl dead, murdered in their house, It was an unsolved crime. Nobody knew who the fuck had beat and stabbed LaTondra. Nobody. Would nobody have ever known had this motherfucker not confessed? And he wasn't through. Because then he told him how a couple of months later, he killed 9-year-old Fallon Flood. Now, Fallon was going to summer school over at the East St. Louis Senior High School, messed up in class and had to, go back in there and do some things during the summertime. It happens. Well, this particular day on July 20th, they found Fallon hanging by a belt, hanging with a belt from something in the bathroom in this high school, right? She's hanging in this bathroom from a belt, her pants down around her ankles. Say he tried to rape this 9-year-old baby, but he couldn't. So he just choked her out and left her there hanging for other children to find at the summer school. Just trifling. And again, when this happened in 1992, a few months after LaTondra, it was an unsolved case. Nobody knew who killed Fallon. And until Lorenzo confessed, nobody would have ever known. The third murder that he confessed to was for 17-year-old Glenda Jones. And this one was sad because in my heart, the way he told the story, Glenda, I believe, knew she was in danger and she tried to mitigate the situation. According to him, he first came at her with a knife, threatening to do her in if she didn't comply. And so I feel like she was placating him and she told him, you don't need that knife shit. I'm down with the get down. You know what I'm saying? Doing what needed to be done to make this crazy man not hurt her. They do the deed. It's still rape, even though she trying to, get along. It's still rape. After the deed is done, Glenda is still recognizing that her life is in danger. So she's telling Lorenzo, you know what? You can be my boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? We can do this whole relationship thing. Of course, this woman, this young girl, because she's 17 years old, she's saying whatever she feels like she needs to say to get out of this situation. I can see this clear as day in my head. This motherfucker here, even though he sees that he can get away cleanly, right? Cause she ain't trying to get no smoke. He like, fuck that. He says that something snapped inside of him and he stabbed her up anyway. Stabbed her and then left her body behind the MLK Junior High School in Centerville. I don't know, he got a thing for schools. Like for somebody else's child to come and find this beaten and bruised body behind the goddamn school. And again, when they found Glenda in 1993, her murder was unsolved. Nobody knew what the fuck had happened to Glenda until Lorenzo is in here confessing from this murder of Faith. That's if he had not left a trail directly to his front door after he killed Faith, nobody would have known what had happened to Ari or LaTondra or Fallon or Glenda if it had not been for Faith. Like, it's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing. But it led to 3 other murders being solved. And so at this point, Lorenzo is confessing and laying it all out on the line for Officer Joe, and Officer Joe is, you know, trying to take it all in, and it's crazy because now all of these cold cases are now about to be solved at this point. They say that on this particular day, on this August 16th, when Officer Joe came back, that nigga Zoe started talking at 12:53 p.m. and it wouldn't be until 9:08 that night that this confession session was over. Like, goddamn, that's a full 8-hour shift. Like, wow, Officer Joe, you earned your money that day, because to sit in a room with this disgusting piece of monkey shit, keep a straight face and not show your disgust on your face so that you can keep him talking. It takes a special kind of person. Not me, because baby, the sneer on my face, he would have known I thought that he was the scum of the fucking earth. Now, this all went down on the 16th. On the 17th, Lorenzo was officially charged with all of those murders that he confessed to, right? And so now it's time for him to cool his heels at the county jail while he waits to go on trial. And even though they've got him down for these 5 murders, they're only going to do him for his first trial for the murder of Ari Hunt. Now, this happened August 9th, 1994. At this point in time, your boy Lorenzo ain't but 23 years old. 23 years old. And you've been out here murdering up the place. And nobody even knew it. Like, that's the sad part about it, is nobody had a clue that this is what you were out here doing. Nobody had a clue that there was a series of child murders going on in this Parkside neighborhood, because the police departments were not sharing information. Like, the Atlanta child murders ended, and then Lorenzo crunk up a new set of child murders in Illinois, and nobody knew. Like, amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, August 9th, 1994 is when Lorenzo is going to trial for the murder of Ari Hunt. And after about a week, he went to the jury and they deliberated for like 9 hours. And on August 16th, 1994, they came back with a guilty verdict. Now, with them, they have to first come back with the verdict, and then they decide what type of sentencing. And so they had 2 options. You can get this nigga a long kiss goodnight, or you can let this nigga rot in prison for the rest of his life, right? And so when they get to the sentencing part of this phase, they went and pulled his drunk ass mama and put her on the stand, and she got up there talking about how she was a bad parent and how she used to beat him upside the head, and that's why he the way he is. They dug up his daddy from the drunk tank at the VA and got a statement that him being ghost was the reason why Lorenzo was the way he was. And then they went and pulled grandma up on the stand, and grandma, you know, she tried to tell him, you know, I did the best I could with damaged goods. I tried to keep him on the straight and narrow, but they fucked him up early, and that's why he the way he is. Ain't nobody trying to hear none of that from none of y'all. I mean, grandma, I know you got to do what you got to do, because out of everybody in this story, you the only one that seemed to gave a half a damn and was able to get this motherfucker to confess to the rest of the shenanigans that he had been up with. So I ain't gonna go in on you, but the rest of y'all, go have several motherfucking seats. So between the brain beating that his mama was doing, and the choking out that his stepdaddy was doing, and the raping of him that everybody else was doing, all of this was being shown to be mitigating issues that the jury needed to take into account with regard to his sentencing, right? And so they ended up giving him a life sentence for Ari Hunt. Okay, so he's serving life, but he's still got to go to court for those other four murders, right? And he goes to trial for those murders in 2001. This time, instead of doing 4 separate trials, they did them all as one. They even brought in the prior murder of Ari and that life sentence. And this time, the jury was like, fuck that shit. That nigga did that shit, and it's time for his ass to be out of here. And so now he has a death sentence. Well, Governor George Ryan did like a whole sweeping, everybody who's on death row, their sentence is now commuted type situation on January 11th of 2003. So even though there were people on death row who had committed some heinous fucking murders, like your boy Lorenzo, because this was just like a broad brushstroke, there was no thought given to, maybe we let some of these motherfuckers off and then we let some of them stay on and deal with their ass. Because he didn't do it that way, everybody that was on death row got a chance to get off. And so all of their sentences were commuted to life in prison, which is why your boy Lorenzo is still around kicking it, because his death penalty was commuted to life without the possibility of parole. And normally this is the part of the story where I start saying, Lorenzo is inmate number so-and-so and so-and-so. But before we can get to that, how about, now this was 2003, his sentence was commuted, right? 6 years later, May 6th, 2009, the DNA machine kicks out Lorenzo's name in connection with the death of 32-year-old Rita Scott in Milwaukee. Say this motherfucker beat her to sleep with a rock, fractured her jaw, cracked her skull all the way open like a coconut, and then he dragged her body from 1501 13th Street to 1513 13th Street. And all along the way that he's dragging is Rita's shit, her purse, her keys, her shoes, her pantyhose, and drag marks that are, just this trail of blood going from one house to the next. And even though at this point in time, they assumed that she was gone on to the upper room, by the time he made it to 1513 13th Street, this nasty, trifling motherfucker decided that it wasn't enough to have killed her. Now he needed to have sex with her dead body. Yes, honey, necrophilia. I told you he was a nasty motherfucker. Not only are you killing kids, although Rita was an adult, still, I don't give a fuck. Necrophilia is just fucking nasty. I mean, rape, period, but just and anybody who wants to have sexual relations with somebody that does not have a heartbeat, trifling. And it's a special place in the 7th circle of hell, with you right there in the center, right there by the fire, right? Just nasty. So now they've got Rita. This is 2009. But, I mean, yes, he caught another homicide charge for her murder, but he already got a sheet full of life sentences. They're not going to ever give him a death sentence that will be carried out. So what's adding one more life sentence on? He already got a shitload of them. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. At this point today, Lorenzo Fayne is 55 years old, and he is inmate number B26556, serving his 5 life sentences at the Bernard Correctional Center in Chester, Illinois. And that new ordination is the disgusting story of a nasty, trifling nigga named Lorenzo Fayne. Child murders that go unsolved are just, I can't imagine the strife and the strain for a parent whose child is gone and you don't know how or who did the killing. But for it to be a rash of child murders and nobody knew that there were a rash of child murders because they were not classified as such, that's a special type of fucked upness, y'all. Like, again, I truly thought that the Atlanta child murders was a one-off type situation. But as I go through these stories, it's not. Like, Lorenzo Fayne literally took out 5 children, and the people of Illinois had no clue. The people of Parkside particularly had no clue. Like, that just amazes me that culturally speaking, in our neighborhoods, when we are, entrenched in the neighborhoods, when things happen on the block, it's news to the neighborhood. All of these killings of these children, this shit all went down in like a 1.5 square mile area. So we're not even talking about like jurisdiction to jurisdiction. Like 1 mile, that was enough so that when this child died over here and this child died over here and this child died over here, the neighborhood should have been like, hey man, somebody's killing the kids. But no one did. Like, if you look at Lorenzo Fayne and the articles and things that are attributed to him, nothing really calls into play the fact that this was a rash of child murders. He did that shit. Now, I know with regard to Lorenzo, very early on when he was in and out of the juvenile detention centers, his IQ was tested and it was low to the floor. Like, it's documented that yes, he has a propensity for violence and sexual aggression, and he also has a very low IQ. Some would say that it was so low that it would be like borderline mentally disabled. That being said, there are many, many, many people who have all ranges of mental disabilities that live healthy, unproblematic lives. They are not out getting their homicidal urges on. But it's a conversation that we have got to have, y'all, about what are we doing when we know early on. I don't give a damn if it's early on or late. Once we find out that there are mental defects in place as well as propensities for violence, we need to come up with a plan of action of what we are actually going to do, because sweeping it under the rug and poo-pooing it away, talking about, oh, it was a mental health crisis. No, like, if we know that the chances of them hurting someone are far greater than, say, whatever baseline we come up with, we need to be doing something about it. Lorenzo, they knew, had issues. Grandma, I know you did the best that you could, but I gotta believe you saw some things. That's why you were able to go down into that jail and talk to your grandson and talk him into confessing whatever it was that he had done. We see and don't see. We love our people so much that we will sweep things that we know to be true under the rug. That rug is lumpy as hell, y'all. We got to do something about this, because yes, mental health is real, but people who are struggling with their mental health, hurting other innocent people, that's very real too. Like, we got to figure out something, because I feel like in 2026, it's only getting worse. Which brings me to my favorite topic of testing DNA and evidence from cold cases. Why isn't it a mandate now in the year 2026 that all cold case evidence needs to be tested. If there is DNA, run it through the DNA machine. If there are fingerprints, run them through CODIS. Like, that should be a federal mandate. Our president loves to break out the pen and do all types of executive orders. Why not do something that would actually bring closure to many, many, many people? Lorenzo was already locked up, had already been given life sentences. And after he was tucked away and not thought about anymore, years later, here come more DNA showing that, we thought it started with Ari, but oh no, it actually started with Rita. Who knows how many other cases are out there that should be attributed to him, or any of the number of unknown serial killers and rapists that are out here who simply are getting away with their crime because the DNA has not been tested. I just don't get it, y'all. What do we need to do? Do we need to start a petition? Like, we really need to focus more on this in jurisdictions across the United States. There are tons and tons of untested, unlooked at files. I mean, the case dust is so thick, it would choke a mountain lion out. You know what I'm saying? But we got to do something, because that DNA is there, and we have the technology available to us now to take the unknown and make it known. All right, I'm putting my soapbox away on that one. And the last thing I want to talk about is, I know the 50 states, depending on where you are, the laws of the land are different. But there's got to be something about commuting a death sentence. Like, I know liberal states versus conservative states, red states versus blue states. I'm just of the opinion, if someone is sentenced to death, then that sentence should be carried out. Like, if we have irrefutable proof, we got video, we got DNA, like, it was you, motherfucker. You have confessed to the shit. Like, there is no doubt, there is no question. Let's go ahead and handle that shit. Like, do we need to have like one state where we send everybody who has been sentenced to death to have that sentence carried out? Because these governors who, you know, on a whim, depending on who's in office, that can just go in and with a pen stroke commute sentences. Like, I don't know if I like that. You've gone through the judicial system. A jury has given you the punishment to fit your crime. And then someone gets to say, you know what? Forget all that. We're just going to do something different. I think that, you know, that's something else that we need to look at. Like, I don't know, is South Dakota, North Dakota, one of those places where it ain't a lot of people? Is that what we put the penal colony for all death sentences? And no matter what state you are sentenced in, once the sentence is passed, you are put on a bus or put on a plane and sent to this place, and this is where they are all carried out at. Like, I don't know. But being able to commute a death sentence, I'm only speaking of death sentences. I think that we need to look more into that. If a jury says that this is what we're going to do, then that's what the fuck we should do. I don't know. What y'all think about it? Y'all know how to get at me on social media. Everywhere I am the Melanin Mayhem podcast. On X, however, I am Melanin Mayhem PC. If email is more your ministry, you can reach out at melaninmayhempodcast@gmail.com. Let's see. For this week's Newer Nation shout out, I'm going to go to Spotify because I saw something that just made me holler. Y'all know, y'all be making me just laugh when I look through your messages that you post. And so on last week's episode for Killer Bay, where we went across the pond to the UK, I did that story and several of you left reviews, and this one, honey, this goes out to Taminator17. Taminator17 said, "The scream I just scrumped. I was just far enough into this bottle of wine when you said he ain't nothing but a rectangle to wake up everybody in the house. Girl, wake their asses up. They should have been up listening to the Melanin Mayhem podcast right along with you, honey." I love it when we be talking about the screams we just scrump, because that's a real thing. Sometimes the scream I scrumped when I be looking at the stuff that y'all post. Thank you so much, Taminator, for taking time out of your day to listen to this podcast and for taking time out to leave me a review. It is so very, very, very much appreciated. Now, y'all, I need you to get on it. I need you to tell 5 people about the Melanin Mayhem podcast, and then tell them to go tell 5 people, and then tell them to go tell 5 people. We need to spread this thing far and wide, because, baby, the numbers is out and we need more people in the New Orleans Nation. Don't forget, if you got people in your life that true crime is really not their ministry, we also have the Melanin Mayhem original story series where they can listen to the country girl talk a little shit, but not all crime related. You know, it's some suspense and things of that nature, some scammeries and that type of thing. But yeah, go on over there and check out the Melanin Mayhem original story series. Now, I have got to get in here in this kitchen and clean this thing up a little bit. But you know, before I close the doors of the church, we got to make sure that all hearts are clear and all minds are free. Y'all good? Y'all good? Okay. Well, remember, as we depart, that I need y'all to stay safe and stay vigilant, because they are out here and they getting away with this shit. And remember, if you ain't remembering nothing else that the country girl has said today, please keep this one close to the vest, honey. If you stay ready, you ain't even got to get ready. New Orleans Nation, it's one love. Your favorite country girl has enjoyed every minute of today, and I can't wait till we get together next week. But I'm out of here. Mwah.
Woo-wee, Nana, you did that.